Good morning all and happy Easter. Road Atlanta, let's go. Great track, good fun. Um, yeah, this is be a pretty short and sweet video. I haven't put a lot of laps in. Fairly happy with the time in here, but there's plenty more in it. But not racing this week, so I'll park up the 951 Racecraft Mustang for another week. Yeah, definitely a fun flow track. You have to drive around the track and set up a little bit this week. It's probably not quite as pointy in a couple of spots as I would like, but overall the dock's quite balanced. It's quite nice. But yeah, definitely it's a flow track, it's a rhythm track. So we'll do what we normally do. We'll play this through and yeah, we'll do a review. It was good watching your own lap back. Plenty of opportunities on this lap, including the start of the lap. So yeah, look, it's a tricky track. You certainly want to look after the tyre here. Makes a big difference, like any track, of course. But given the lateral load on the car here, you want to try and keep the temperature down in the tyre as much as possible. So avoid big wheel spin, sliding, oversteer, and lock brakes as best you can. Yeah, and that's going to give you the best shot you can on keeping the tyre under the car and minimising your mistakes. Because once the tyre gets hot, it leads to further mistakes. That's just the way it is. But yeah. Anyway, so look, I'll finish the lap with the start if that makes sense. No point in talking about the run onto the straight at the start of the lap. We'll worry about that at the end. But look, yeah, nice, and use all the curb here, a little bit more than the curb if you need to. Into turn one, you should be close. I didn't maximise the exit there, so you should be close to the limiter in fifth gear coming into that one board. And braking wise, you basically at the one board from an onboard point of view. One board just goes past the edge of my middle screen and start to brake. So decent brake application into here. Sort of get up on the peak, and then it's really about trailing the car. You can see I turn in quite wide here and get the car back towards the curb. You just see that radius is quite nice. Once I'm happy the car's turning in, you can start to pick up the throttle. Now, probably just a smidge wide here. It's not huge, but it's maybe 500ths in the lap time just in this bit. A little bit tighter on the curb would be nice. Probably just came out of the trail just a little bit earlier. Probably just could have maintained a little bit through the middle there, just to keep that nose coming in a bit earlier in the corner. But overall, not too bad. But you can see as soon as you clear the brake, basically you're back on the throttle. So you've got to start driving the car on the rear as quickly as you can here. If you leave it a bit too long, you lose a lot of momentum up the hill. So you want to pick up the throttle as early as you can and start getting the car to rotate as early as you can. Flow the car out a bit, sort of 3/4 track. I call you got your 4 lanes here. You're over the 3/4 line. hard on the throttle as early as you can without having the car snap sideways. So really balance that throttle all the way up. You want to be ideally, and the reason I say back at turn one here, I'm probably quarter of a car wide at this point. Probably wanted to be here. Now, the reason I want to be here is because as you come up the hill, I tend to want to get the car. I use the blue line as a reference, so I try to want to be around here. So you can see that quarter of a car wide back at turn one translates to half a car wide back here because you're just constantly flowing out from that point. So try and get the car pointing in and up if you can. And if you're over here, it just makes this next section a little bit nicer as opposed to trying to force the car back to the right to get it to go left. So, excuse me. All right. As you come up the hill, so you can sort of go, look, that's where the car is. I'm not going to fight the thing back to the right. But again, I prefer to be a little bit further over. Roll out of the throttle a little early, just a light little trail brake. Use a bit of grass. So again, because it all flows, yeah. So because I'm just a little narrow here, the turn in's just a little tighter, so I don't get onto the curb the way I would like to. So sort of roll out of the throttle nicely. Now normally I'd want to be coming up on here, okay? So you sort of ride the curb all the way around and jump off here because I'm a little bit wide up the hill. It just narrows it up a touch. It might not seem a lot, but that would be that exit of one or the apex of one into here and through this next section would probably be worth a tenth and a half. So it's significant. It's just little things like that that make a massive difference. So as the car comes in, you can see, again, I should be here, turning off there. I'm just quarter of a car over, which makes this a little bit on the narrow side. Why is that important? Because it all flows on. So flip the car back in, get the weight on the nose. So you use a lot of curb here. Again, because I'm a bit narrow, the car's kind of shooting out towards the curb. I'd prefer it to be a little bit narrower off here, but gets out there not too bad. Get the car up on the curb and just balance the throttle here. Really rail the inside as much as you can. Don't use too much throttle because it'll snap oversteer or it'll just punch understeer, and you'll be coming out of here way too wide. So again, this is a section where you want to make sure that when you come out of here, you're quite narrow. You don't want to be floating out here because you're going to burn massive amounts of time all the way down the hill. So go slow to go fast here is probably the best bit of advice I can give you. If you want to try and get through this corner as quick as you can, that's great. You might make up a tenth and a half just here, but you're going to burn 2-3 tenths down the hill. So definitely here is about just momentum, as fast as you can go, but momentum, and getting the car set up here to be able to get down the hill properly. Because I can tell you right now, there's 3-4 tenths you will lose in these next 3 corners if you don't get this right. So get the car to the left as far as you can. There's no brake here, so you should be able to just pitch the car in and use the throttle. So throttle off just to get a bit of weight on the nose because you are coming over a bit of a crest. Rotate the car in early. Now you want to shoot for the grass. Okay, that's not an off track. It's bloody close. Don't get me wrong. It's probably a little bit too much. But yeah, not an off track. I wish this freaking graph would stay up. Fix it, iRacing. But yeah, you want to shoot in on the grass, and you can see I don't come all the way out of the throttle. I just sort of come out to about 45%, and then start feeding in and driving on the rear. So get the car up over. As soon as it settles off the curb, bang, full throttle. A little bit of a lift over. Oh, I didn't lift that time. Good job, Sean. Pat on the back. Up over the curb, nice and hard, and then into here, it's pretty aggressive. So a good hit on the brake to get the weight back on the nose. I've been studying Logan's data here because Logan is on fire this week. So I had a quick look at his data, and he's far more committed in here than I am. I can tell you that at the moment. So, but yeah, nice and smooth on the brakes. Now down to third gear, and you want the car rotating off the curb. So what I mean by that is, as you can see, I'm already turning the car whilst I'm up on top of the curb. Hit that curb as square as you can. So don't, when you come off here, you really want to kind of, as you can see, angle it back and use that part of the curb, right? You don't want to hit it late, or you don't want to hit it back here, because it just unsettles the car. So you just want to kind of glide it up there. You can see there's not a lot of activity in the car. It kind of just goes, yeah, cool, I'm up. And that's just going to help you avoid locking brakes, and it's also going to help you turn the car in without too much of a slide or an oversteer. So, you know, you can just see it's nice and calm. Rotate the car in and attack the curb. Right, you can use more curb than that. Up to you. Depends how you come off that curb, but you definitely want to get up over it and start picking that throttle up as soon as you can. Stop yawning. As soon as you can. Balance the throttle until you're out comfortable on the curb. Once you know the car's settled, and it, bang, there you go. So off, I'm not going to rewind it because it's going to stuff my data. Off that curb, there's a little bit of a bump. It's not much. You can be flat at that point, but it is going to fire up the rear tyre, which is going to heat the rear tyre. So just that 5% throttle just keeps it a little bit smoother, and then you can just grab the throttle and away you go. Here's pretty straightforward. Up through the gears. Plenty of shadows in the brake markers, in the brake zones here, which is a bit frustrating, but is what it is. Time of day, midday was better. But effectively, you want to be braking around about, we'll go on board, around about the 2 board is my brake marker here. Now, I tend to, I get, between the Gen 2 car and the Gen 3 car here is a bit of a frustration, because you'd be close to the white line in the Gen 2 car. I think you can push this brake marker further for sure. This wasn't really a quali sim lap, it was more of a race sim lap. So bringing it back a bit, to look after the tyre, so to speak. So this is not how I would qualify the car, this is how I would race the car, if that makes sense, because you do attack very differently. But yeah, nice and smooth, good brake application, trail down nicely and get the car into the curb. You really want to turn the car in quite early and get the car up over the curb. Again, I could probably use a little bit more curb than that, but from in quali, I would monster it. Race sense, that's fine. Nice consistent throttle out to the curb. Sort of once you get out to the curb, I'm looking to settle the car, slow it down and brake. So not a big brake application here. Just out of the throttle and just float the car into this next corner. If you try and push too hard whilst you're up on the curb, chances are as you come down and turn the thing right, it'll snap sideways on you. Either that, or it'll just understeer and push you wide at the apex. So definitely want to flow the car nicely here, drop it down off the curb, see, just trail in. And I'm focusing on getting as much rotation as I can from sort of 3/4 entry to mid. I don't want the car understeering and pushing wide, because that's just delaying throttle application. So if you can get the car rotated nicely, even if you're a little bit slower here, chances of someone getting up the inside are very minimal. So you're better off sacrificing maybe a 1/10 on the entry to gain a 1/10 or 2/10 on the straight. Sooner you can get back onto the throttle without lighting the rears up, the better. So you can see I'm back on the throttle already before it gets onto the curb. And that's to help a little bit with rotation. Once it clears, just keep that consistent throttle application in it, float the car out of the curb, and bang, you're on the loud pedal. No wheel spin, no crap. Just, nice and smooth. Down the straight, don't float around. I find sitting in the middle tram track, a little bit to the left, is a perfect spot. The reason being, go test it yourself. You're going to sit out here and apex in, you're going to lose time. You're adding track, you're adding meters. If you want to sit in here, it's too tight around this corner, you're just going to hurt the front tyres. I know it's just a flat out corner, yeah? Shouldn't be much to it. But if you are narrow, you're going to put a lot of steering lock into the car to get it around here at full throttle. which is just going to hurt the front tyre. So I find if you can sit sort of mid-track here, by all means, a little narrower, but the less steering input you've got to put in the car, the less resistance there is in the tyre, and you're going to look after the front tyre. Coming into a big brake spot downhill, you want that front tyre as cool as you can have it, I guess. You've had a whole straight to do that. Sitting on the inside here and putting a whole heap of lock into it to get it around the corner, in my opinion, is not the way to do it. So, but anyway, you just see start angling the car in, bugger all steering lock, and you want the car nice and tight on the white line as you get into the brake zone. So now brake marker is for me around the white line. So I went a bit deeper this one. But roughly around that white line is your brake marker. I think I just pinch a front here, managed to clear it and get back on the brake. But it is a big brake application. Don't rush your downshifts in this brake zone. So really easy to blow an engine on the third to second shift, even the fourth to third shift, because if you rush it too quick, it is downhill braking. So it doesn't retard as quickly as you probably want it to. But definitely nice, smooth, consistent shifts down through the box. And focus just on consistent pedal pressure all the way in. So you can see it's consistent, and then you sort of start to taper out as you get towards mid-curb and get the car rotated in. Now, you want to use more curb than I have there. You can definitely get a little bit further over and grab a little bit more of the dirty stuff. But here is just about balance and transition. Get the car flicked in back across the curb, no brake. If you're braking in the middle of that, then you're carrying far too much entry speed, or you're turning in too early into the first part and it's pushing the car wide, which means you've then got to get on the brake to get around the next corner. So you definitely don't want to be turning in early here. Turning in early means you'll apex earlier, which means you'll push wider. Yeah, so you'll end up out. Instead of being here, you'll end up half a car wider, which means then you're on the brake trying to get the car around this next corner. You want to be able to flow the section. Use a little bit more curb on entry as well. I haven't maximized the track width. Definitely could use a bit more curb here. But yeah, definitely want to turn in nice and late, trail all the way in, get the car rotated and focus on that flick back. So you can see a little lift on the throttle and then bang back on it. So that little lift is just to get the weight back on the nose during that transition. And then up your hill. Now, if you wanted to, I saw a cool video the other day about weight transition in iRacing. Rolling out of the throttle doesn't necessarily transfer weight to the front of the car, right? Especially in a section like this. But obviously the car is lunging with steering, rotation and things like that. Nothing wrong with if you did just stab the brake there. Boom, get the weight on the nose. You by all means, there's nothing wrong with that. The more weight transfer you can get on the nose, the better the car's going to rotate. So good consistent throttle, float the car out of the curb. As soon as you can, get back to as much throttle as you can. On a qual lap, you should be flat here. So you'd be flat from back here because you don't give a shit about the tyre. Yeah, you're at the end of your lap. You should be flat. I just balance the throttle a bit over these bumps. It doesn't cost you any time. Not a lot of time anyway, but over a race run would be more beneficial in my opinion. As you come down the hill, just consistent throttle, back to full throttle. Now, I didn't quite maximize it here. So you just want to probably get out to the curb a little bit earlier and rotate it hard back in. And again, this is a spot. There's no brake, but you could grab a little if you wanted to. Car rotated pretty well here, but if anything, it actually came back in a little bit odd. Mid-corner, it felt good. I picked up the throttle and, sorry, not mid-corner, mid-entry, it felt good. I picked up the throttle and I just put a smidge of understeer in it. So that then hurts the exit just a little bit out to the curb, and that's the end of your lap. And that was what was that? 21.4. So not an awful lap by any means, but there's definitely at least another 0.3 on the table for a full hard cold push lap, and with more laps. But that was just, as I said, jumped in the server for a 1 lap flyer. Yeah, is what it is. Setup wise, nothing's changed. So it's 63, 9, and 6 on the pedal. Yeah, 6 on the pedal, so stock standard, as per the setup. Yeah, feels good. I think. What did I think of the new livery, by the way? Thanks, Ross, RSW Graphics. Yeah, it's a flow track. It's a track that you can hustle a little bit, but the more you hustle, the more you hurt the tyre. So what I mean by flow is just come off the throttle a bit earlier in the braking zones. Just focus on getting the car in and out of the corner well. Focus on keeping the car nice and straight and consistent, and not having the car slide around and move around too much off the curbs or in the braking zones. Really easy to lock front tyres here. It's not a track that you often lock rears unless you make a genuine mistake, say here. But yeah, very easy to lock a front in a couple of key braking zones. So that's something for you to have a bit of a think about, is just work on your braking, do the active resets. It's a really good track to do active resets in the last sector because you can do it halfway down the straight, and then do that whole last sector. But a lot of time to be made or lost here. But yeah, definitely want to flow. Qualifying's going to be key. Undercut will be worth a bit as well. Just don't do what I did last week and pit on lap 3 at Road America. Not a good strat. But got to give something a try. But anyway, look, that's a lap of Road Atlanta. I hope it's helpful, and have yourselves a good one.